I never meant to drown my brother's antique violin in a baptismal font, yet that's exactly what I did on a mist-slick Sunday in April, my fingers white-knuckling the maple neck while stained-glass saints watched me upend 4 generations of family expectation into chilly holy water. 20 hours earlier I'd been a road-weary sister with tire grit in my teeth, convinced the only thing I still owed Declan was applause at his conductor debut gala. But a single overheard sentence, just 10 lazy words spoken behind the sacristy curtain, ripped every string that still tethered me to loyalty. Once Nora's money lands, we'll lock her in assisted care. 10 words from my own flesh and blood, delivered in the same honeyed baritone that once begged me to check monsters under his childhood bed. The words turned the cathedral's rehearsal hall into a confession booth I'd never asked for. Before the font, before the violin drowned, there was the drive, 900 miles of cracked asphalt, sleet that needled my windshield like cosmic sarcasm, and a cedar chest buckled into the back seat of my battered Subaru. Inside that chest, double-wrapped, humidity-controlled, rested the O'Sullivan Guarneri copy, a 1740 masterpiece that had survived the Great Famine, 2 World Wars, and Declan's adolescent rendition of Smoke on the Water. My inheritance, technically, but I'd promised to hand it over tonight, his 40th birthday, so he could auction it for seed money to launch a youth orchestra. That was the story, at least. Mom's handwritten plea still sat folded in my visor. Give him the violin, Nora. It's all he needs to change the world, and you can spare it. I could spare it because I was the successful sibling, 55, unmarried, head of data security for a Boston biotech, child-free, mortgage-free, allegedly emotion-free. Declan had talent and charisma but zero fiscal glue, thus the family pipeline. Nora earns, Declan dreams, Mom referees. I'd tolerated the arrangement, even found twisted pride in it, until the moment I heard him plot to relegate me to a locked ward as soon as my signature hit the transfer deed. The cathedral was quiet except for rain-pinging copper gutters. I'd arrived early, too early, intent on surprising him during dress rehearsal with a pastry box of cannoli and the cedar chest slung between my shoulders like salvation. I padded through the nave, past pews that smelled of beeswax and old confessions, following the thrum of tuned strings to the side chapel. That's when I heard him. Declan, she's driving a fortune on 4 wheels. Once I have the Guarneri, Mom files durable power of attorney, we move Nora into Crestview, and the trustees won't question a thing. Mom, soft but clear, she won't fight. She never does. Just make tonight sparkle. A cello laughed. Someone popped a champagne cork. Laughter spooled out, rich as incense. And in that laughter, I saw my future shrink to a key-coated hallway that smelled of Lysol and abandonment. I left the cannoli on a prie-dieu and slipped back to the nave with the cedar chest thumping my spine. Adrenaline snapped decisions into place faster than servers spin up at my day job. 1. Remove the violin from circulation. 2. Rewrite every document that made me an ATM. 3. Let consequences conduct the rest. The baptismal font squatted under a skylight like a stone chalice waiting for sin. I knelt, lifted the lid of the chest, and unwrapped the violin, aged varnish glowing amber, F-holes dark as unshed tears. I whispered an apology to great-grandfather Seamus, to every starving ancestor who'd nested hope in these strings, then sank the instrument under water. Air bubbles fizzed like champagne, ironic twins to the celebration prepping backstage. Maple warped in seconds, gut strings slackened with a sigh, and history went silent. When I rose, holy water dripped from my cuffs, staining my wool coat like stigmata. I set the ruined relic back inside its velvet cocoon, walked to the sacristy door, and knocked twice. Declan opened, baton in hand, wine flush on cheeks, rehearsed gratitude ready to bloom, until he saw the soaked chest. Nora? You're early. His smile flickered. Everything okay? I baptized the Guarneri, I said. Consider it reborn. I pushed the chest into his arms. Water soaked his tuxedo front like slow-forming bruise. Behind him, our mother gasped, hand to pearls. I turned before they could cage me in words. Outside, rain had slowed to mist, streetlights diffusing halos over slick cobblestones. I sat in my car, heart jackhammering, and dialed Margaret, my estate attorney, the same woman who'd shepherded every NDA and patent in my career. Megs, I need to rewrite my will tonight, I said. Strike Declan, strike my mother. Everything goes to the musician's pension fund and Crestview Elder Library. Digital access only from devices I authorize. She didn't ask why. Lawyers worth their salt read earthquakes through phone static. I'll send DocuSign in an hour. Next I opened my banking app, biometric lock, 6-figure balances. I froze every shared account, every co-signed credit line, every trust with my social attached. Each tap felt like a scalpel carving out infection. Notifications pinged Declan's phone within minutes. I pictured his face bleaching whiter than drowned maple. My final call was to Father Donnelly, the cathedral rector. If someone asks about water damage to a violin, I murmured, remind them baptism costs nothing but ego. He chuckled once. The man had heard stranger confessions. Driving north at 3 a. I cut the GPS and let instinct reroute me along back roads lined with forsythia just beginning to flare. My pulse synchronized with tire hum, left, right, freedom, future. That afternoon I recognized the hush I'd heard in auction rooms when two bidders colluded to keep prices low before flipping treasures for private profit. They intended to flatten our gardens for condos, sell the manor, and store me in a memory care wing not yet built. Jasper would rebrand Gray and Gray as a sleek online broker. No dusty showroom, no payroll, only click-to-claim artifacts hawked like last season's sneakers. Efficiency, he'd call it, progress. They'd underestimated the archivist who once spent 3 months reversing smoke damage on a Victorian fan. Patience and solvents are my native tongue. At dusk I ascended the storage mezzanine where our unsalable crates slumbered. Generations had labeled them NFS, not for sale, but never opened them. Under a single swinging bulb I slit tape and found dynamite disguised as dust. Glass negatives of 1910 suffragette marches, personal letters between Booker T. Washington and a local abolitionist teacher, and ledger books proving great-grandfather used auction profits to fund a clandestine safehouse hidden in the manor's south wing. Our lineage wasn't antique dealers, we were covert activists. Jasper wanted to demo that for parking spaces. I scanned each artifact and emailed them to Dr. Simone Reyes, a regional history scholar I'd almost married in 1986. Within an hour she replied that the trove could underwrite half a museum wing. She attached a draft proposal titled The Grey Freedom Archive, deadline midnight for a Heritage Trust endowment. While Simone polished the grant, I extracted grandfather's forgotten codicil from the safe behind our grandfather clock, a notarized clause stating that if heirs misused Grey assets for personal gain, stewardship transferred to the relative preserving historical integrity. I'd saved it for sentiment. Tonight it became a sword. Morning light seeped through stained glass transoms. Collectors circled porcelain snuff boxes and Regency mirrors while Jasper adjusted his Bluetooth headset, unaware Lot 213 was about to become a crime scene. Please stay seated, Auntie, he cooed. We'll handle everything. I patted the chess table's king and said, break a leg. When bidding opened on the Jacques tournament table he trumpeted an estimate of 90 to 120,000. Paddles flew. I stepped forward, lifted the rook, and announced the reserve was now 0 because I rescinded the sale. Jasper barked legalities. I dropped grandfather's codicil on the lectern. A visiting estate lawyer read it aloud. Murmurs thickened to outrage. Jasper lunged. I braced. My elbow clipped a carved leg. The chessboard tipped. Centuries-old mahogany exploded across marble like a grenade of lineage. Bishops skittered beneath Louis XV chairs. Pawns ricocheted off mean vases. Silence thundered. Effective immediately, I said. All family lots are withdrawn. Items of historical merit will seed the Grey Freedom Archive, funded by the Heritage Trust proposal already submitted. I raised the Washington letter. Cameras flashed, instant provenance. Marianne hissed about debts. I gestured to the wreckage. Consider this partial payment. Collectors drifted away, some annoyed but many secretly thrilled. Auction lore for decades. By nightfall Simone texted. Heritage Trust approved $750,000 for renovation. Newspaper headlines followed. Spinster saves Underground Railroad relics from corporate condos. Jasper threatened injunctions, but the notarized codicil and public opinion tidal wave left him clutching splinters. My first board motion as sole steward granted living wages to junior catalogers he'd planned to fire. My second mandated ethics training for every staffer, including him. He still owns his minority share, but without my consent he can neither sell nor leverage it. I took a tour of Shaded Pines, pleasant staff, tolerable soup, and registered Jasper for glossy marketing mailers with a post-it, better for everyone. Months passed. Contractors restored the south wing, exposing the hidden servant corridor once used as a safe route for runaways. School groups now trace that tunnel. Children press palms against cool brick and whisper that history feels alive. Simone curated the shattered chess table into an installation. Pieces suspended in acrylic, plaque titled The Day the Game Changed. She caught me blushing and booked us 2 train tickets up the coast. Reasoning curators deserve vacations and trains are gentler on aging knees. Jasper quit returning my calls unless they involved board quorums. Marianne emails tersely about tax filings. I send cordial replies, always blind copying Simone. My mornings begin with strong tea brewed beside the restoration lab where junior staff photograph suffragette negatives for digital release. Evenings end on the manor's veranda, wisteria perfuming air once earmarked for asphalt, while I stroke the grain of a salvaged pawn, one fragment of the table I kept as a reminder that inheritance is less about objects than about refusing to let others auction off your worth. I'm telling you this because families everywhere have Jasper Marianne alliances whispering behind doors, and auction gavels fall in countless forms, sometimes a real gavel, sometimes a signature you give out of habit. Listen through the crack, read the ledgers nobody else opens, and when the moment comes, don't hesitate to tip the table. Splinters are easier to sweep than decades of regret. If my confession sparks a memory of your own half-heard betrayal, sit with that sound until it becomes a drum you march to, not a hush you wither under. History loves loud caretakers.